Welcome to the informative channel. Today we will cover the topic: the rise of Islam in Afghanistan, historical roots, cultural impact, and modern-day influence. The rise of Islam in Afghanistan is a multifaceted narrative that intertwines conquest, culture, resistance, and transformation over centuries. The story begins during the early Islamic period and continues to influence the modern socio-political and cultural fabric of the nation. Afghanistan, located at the crossroads of Central Asia, South Asia, and the Middle East, has long been a melting pot of civilizations, empires, and religions. Before the advent of Islam in the 7th century CE, the region was characterized by a diverse religious landscape that included Buddhism, Zoroastrianism, Hinduism, and local tribal belief systems. Cities like Bamiyan were centers of Buddhist learning and culture, showcasing Afghanistan's significant role in the ancient Silk Road network that facilitated not only trade but also cultural and religious exchange. The initial spread of Islam into Afghanistan was not merely a religious movement but a profound civilizational shift that altered the trajectory of its history. The introduction of Islam to Afghanistan occurred in stages. The initial encounters were part of the early Islamic conquests during the Rashidun Caliphate in the 7th century, particularly after the conquest of Persia. Arab Muslim forces moved eastward following the defeat of the Sassanid Empire at the Battle of Nehawand in 642 CE. They penetrated into the regions of modern-day Afghanistan, particularly through the area known as Khorasan, which included parts of northeastern Iran, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and western Afghanistan. The local resistance was strong and persistent, and it took several decades for the Muslim rulers to gain a foothold. Early Muslim governors of Khorasan launched numerous campaigns, but complete political and religious control remained elusive. One of the primary reasons for this slow progression was the deeply entrenched local cultures and the strength of existing religious institutions, especially Buddhist monasteries and Zoroastrian fire temples. The Umayyad Caliphate, 661–750 CE, intensified efforts to bring Afghanistan under Islamic control. Notably, the Arab general Qutayba ibn Muslim led significant campaigns in the region during the reign of Caliph al-Walid I. He managed to assert Muslim dominance in parts of Balkh and Herat, two major cities in northern Afghanistan. Despite military successes, full Islamization did not occur overnight. Conversion was a gradual process influenced by various factors such as social mobility, economic benefits, administrative integration, and intermarriage. Often, local elites adopted Islam for pragmatic reasons, and over time, this trickled down to the general population. The Abbasid period, 750–1258 CE, marked a deeper integration of Islam into Afghan society, particularly with the spread of Islamic learning, jurisprudence, and administrative systems. The Abbasids emphasized a more inclusive approach, which facilitated the synthesis of Persian and Islamic cultures. This period also saw the emergence of influential Muslim scholars, mystics, and poets from the region, who contributed to the broader Islamic civilization. One of the critical turning points in the Islamization of Afghanistan was the rise of the Ghaznavid Empire in the 10th century. Founded by Sebuktigin, a former slave who rose to power, the Ghaznavid dynasty established its capital in Ghazni and played a pivotal role in the promotion of Sunni Islam. Under Mahmud of Ghazni, the empire expanded into the Indian subcontinent, and his campaigns were framed as jihad, or holy war, against non-Muslims. Mahmud was not only a conqueror but also a patron of Islamic arts and sciences. His court attracted scholars like al-Biruni and Ferdowsi, who were instrumental in preserving and transmitting Islamic and Persian knowledge. The Ghaznavids reinforced the Sunni orthodoxy and helped embed Islamic values into the local culture, establishing mosques, madrasas, and other religious institutions. This also marked the decline of Buddhist influence in Afghanistan, especially after the destruction of major Buddhist centers and the iconoclasm against the famed Bamiyan Buddhas. Following the Ghaznavids, the Ghurids emerged as a dominant force in the 12th century. Originating from the central Afghan region of Ghor, the Ghurid dynasty was also committed to the spread of Islam. The Ghurids are remembered for their military conquests in northern India, which laid the groundwork for the establishment of the Delhi Sultanate. Culturally, they continued the Islamic Persianate tradition and further integrated Islamic practices into Afghan society. Their rule witnessed the flourishing of Persian literature, architecture, and Islamic theology. As Afghanistan became more deeply embedded in the Islamic world, Sufi orders also gained prominence. Sufism played a critical role in popularizing Islam among the masses. Sufi saints and mystics like Khwaja Abdullah Ansari of Herat, known as the Sage of Herat, became revered figures who preached a more personal and spiritual form of Islam. Their shrines became centers of pilgrimage, spiritual instruction, and social cohesion. The Mongol invasions of the 13th century brought devastation to Afghanistan, disrupting Islamic institutions and infrastructure. Cities like Balkh and Herat were razed, and countless lives were lost. However, even the Mongols eventually embraced Islam. The Ilkhanate in Persia and the Chagatai Khanate in Central Asia converted to Islam, and this reinvigorated Islamic life in the region. The Timurids, who rose to power in the late 14th century, brought a cultural renaissance to Afghanistan. Cities like Herat became centers of Islamic art, architecture, and scholarship. Under rulers like Shah Rukh and his wife Ghaffar Shad, Herat flourished with madrasas, libraries, and courts that rivaled those of any Islamic capital. This period is considered a golden age of Persian Islamic culture in Afghanistan, producing renowned poets such as Jami and painters like Bazard. The advent of the Mughals in the 16th century and the subsequent Safavid influence brought new dynamics to the region. Although the Mughals were based in India, they retained ties to their ancestral lands in Afghanistan, especially Kabul. Babur, the founder of the Mughal Empire, wrote fondly of Kabul in his memoirs, the Baburnama. The Mughals practiced a syncretic form of Islam, blending Persian, Turkic, and Indian influences. The Safavids, on the other hand, brought Shia Islam to parts of western Afghanistan, especially Herat, which they occasionally controlled. This introduced a sectarian element to Afghan Islam that would have lasting implications. The coexistence of Sunni and Shia communities, though often peaceful, also sowed seeds for future discord. The formation of the modern Afghan state under Ahmad Shah Durrani in the 18th century solidified the role of Islam as a cornerstone of national identity. Ahmad Shah, hailed as the founder of modern Afghanistan, used Islam to unify the various Pashtun tribes and other ethnic groups. He portrayed himself as a Ghazi, or Islamic warrior, defending Muslim lands against foreign encroachment. His successes continued to emphasize Islamic identity in their governance, although tribal and ethnic affiliations often superseded religious unity. Throughout the 19th century, as Afghanistan became a buffer state between British India and Tsarist Russia, Islam remained a unifying force against colonial pressures. Leaders like Dost Muhammad Khan and Abdur Rahman Khan emphasized Islamic values while navigating complex geopolitical realities. The ulama, or religious scholars, played an influential role in legitimizing state authority and guiding social norms. In the 20th century, the relationship between Islam and the Afghan state underwent significant transformations. The modernization efforts of Amanullah Khan in the 1920s, including secular education, women's rights, and Western dress codes, were met with fierce resistance from conservative religious elements. The backlash culminated in his abdication and a reaffirmation of traditional Islamic values. Later rulers, including Zahir Shah and Daud Khan, attempted to modernize Afghanistan while maintaining a careful balance with Islamic traditions. However, the Soviet invasion in 1979 marked a turning point. The occupation was seen as an affront to Islam, and resistance to it was framed in religious terms. The Mujahideen, a loose alliance of Islamic fighters, waged jihad against the Soviet forces and the communist regime. This era saw the influx of foreign fighters, funding from Muslim countries, and the rise of Islamist ideologies. The post-Soviet period and the subsequent civil war further entrenched Islam in Afghan politics. Groups like the Taliban, who emerged in the 1990s, advocated for a strict interpretation of Sunni Islam based on the Deobandi school. Their rule from 1996 to 2001 imposed a harsh version of Sharia law, marked by gender segregation, public executions, and the destruction of cultural relics like the Bamiyan Buddhas.